All right. We did it. It's Friday. Let's do this, man. It's finally here. This crazy cold ass week coming to an end. 3, 2, 1. Yo. What's going on? Razorback fans. Hope you guys had a warm week. Mixed emotions this week. Mixed emotions. Razorback basketball almost lets us down, and then they don't. And then we have cold weather. Kids are home most of the week. My kids went back to school yesterday and today. Was kind of hoping we would turn right into like warmer weather, but we didn't. It's cold out there, and my poor mini split that's right behind me is just working overtime. Did you guys get your electric bills in yet? Have you guys gotten your electric bill? Oh, my God. Ours was through the roof. Okay. Make sure you guys please like, share. If you've got any questions or comments, fire away in chat. Oh, there's Kelly Marie. What's up, Kelly? She pops in once every 6 months. Okay, to be fair, you comment. I don't know, maybe you've been here, but you comment every once in a while. It's nice to have you here. And Mr. Eagle, our Discord admin, is also here. What's going on? Don't make me think about my electric bill. I know ours was painful, Kelly. It was painful. My wife sent me the bill or the image of the bill, and it was a lot. All right. Yeah. Like, share, subscribe if you're new here. I do appreciate you guys. Patreon supporters, you're awesome. I left you a little video last night. I had intended on that coming out a little sooner, but I wasn't able to get around to it until late last night. I think like after 9 o'clock. Anyways, if you want to join Patreon, there's a link for you. Happy to see you too, John. Appreciate you, man. Smelly it, reporting for duty. Megan says cold. I'm too numb to be able to tell how cold I am. Yeah, I hear you. Shout out to the sponsors. Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company. They make it happen. Without them, I'm not in here right now. Without them, I don't have this 2-inch thick reinforced garage door that's keeping that cold-ass weather outside. So, Direct Service Overhead, man, they make it happen. Same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes. They'll come out to your house. They'll give you a free estimate. They'll hook you up. 501-244-3667. That's how you get a hold of them. Or you can check out the link provided for you down below. The Odd Soul Craft Bar and Pizzaria, also a sponsor of this show, located on Emma Street in Springdale. They're a staple in this fine town. Local IPAs, great pies, great environment. Go check them out. Tell them Ty Hudson from Tuss Talk with Ty sent you. Discord's cracking me up. Ty had that drip. For the first time ever, we're implementing a little AI. That's, if you notice the hog on the thumbnail, that's, someone sent that to me. They're like, bro, I just found this sweet hog AI with the gold chain. I thought you would like it. He's got the sunglasses on like you've always got on your head for some reason. It's really to hold back the luscious brown locks. That's what it's supposed to do. But thought you would like it, sent it to me, so I thought, all right, well, I'll turn this into a thumbnail. And now it's also on it's on the screen here, as you can see. We're implementing a little AI. First show to do it that covers Razorback sports. We're implementing AI here. We got a bunch of people popping up left and right. Ty, how serious is Arkansas about its football program? Is the program's goal to go over 500? Is it to go to the playoffs and win a championship, keeping Sam in year 4 after going 4-8? What do you think? Well, I mean, you're going into year 5, Ross. I mean, I could start off with answering that question. I did ask you to ask questions after all. Listen, it's kind of a complicated question because it's loaded because first off, you're going into year 5. I think the fact that they went after someone like Bobby Petrino, even though I say it was a Hail Mary, it was a PR move, it was a we got to sell tickets, how do we do it? That's what I think this was. That's their job. That's Hunter Yurchek's job. That's, Sam Pittman's job is to go out and win games and to build a program. But I think it shows what does it show you when they went after Petrino? For me, it is part PR move, absolutely 110% going after Petrino and bringing him here. And then they're kind of, in a way, I think they're doubling down because they let him go after his wide receiver coach. If you look at the transfer portal, that's got Bobby Petrino written all over it, including the Broderick Green, I don't want to say clone, because Broderick, I don't think, played quarterback in high school. But you look at the kid they got out of Utah, the running back. Talon Green is a guy that Petrino recruited. I mean, it's almost like they've doubled down on letting Petrino. To me, that shows a level of we have got to get this in the hands of somebody who's at least competent in terms of the offense. Pittman is he's taken on that, I don't know, what do you call it, CEO role. I'm just going to let my coaches coach. I'm going to let them do their thing. You look at what they did on the defensive side of the ball. I know that is often referenced, but I think there's a hell of a lot of truth in it. I think there is a hell of a lot of truth in that with what they did on the defensive side of the ball. By the way, Deke Adams, so far, God willing, they're keeping Deke here. I think that was huge. It's a big reason why you got Jackson coming back despite the fact he could have been a second or third round pick. At one point in time, Kiper had him all the way up as the number one defensive end, which I said even then this feels like a rush to judgment because of what he did against Alabama. We know at the time Alabama was struggling to pass protect, and it was a big part of the reason why they struggled at times this year. Any Alabama fan will tell you that. And Landon Jackson balled out, and I think that was an overreaction by Mel Kiper. But at the same time, while his production dropped after that game, he still went on and impacted games in his own way. So you keep Deke Adams around, right? You're so far. You remember, we've seen assistants or position coaches, hell, even coordinators leave in February. It's pretty common, actually, because of the final signing period. Sometimes players and coaches wait until after signing period to make major decisions. Or spring ball, for that matter, for players especially. I think Pittman has it within the things that are possible. He has it within him to turn this ship around. We saw him do that on defense. I think he's serious because he did go after Bobby Petrino. He did let Petrino, it's very clear to me Petrino is taking over the reins on the offense. I don't know what to make of the hire of the offensive line coach. I don't know what to make of some of their moves there just yet. I mean, you're talking about a possible, I was on Mark Rogers. I did Mark Rogers yesterday morning, and we talked about this a little bit before the recording. I don't know what to make of all the moves up front on the offensive line. I don't know if they're all net positives yet or not. We're not going to know you're not going to know until the season shows up, right? You just never know with the transfer portal. So I do think that's a very long way to answer your question. I do think there's an attempt at least to be a serious program. We also have to remember what is within reason for the Razorback football program at the moment. What is within reason? Were they going to go out and hire some big time up and coming offensive coordinator with all kinds of awesome, with an incredible background, a guy that will be a head coach within a year or two, or within 2 or 3 years? Were they going to go out and get that guy? I think the fact they brought in Barry Odom at the time was big, and I know Odom and Pittman had that connection. And then he also brought Kendall Briles in, right? Kendall Briles was this big name. That wasn't going to happen in 2023 at the end of the season. That wasn't going to happen. The Arkansas football program, I think it has the appearance of kind of how we look at the Razorback basketball program at the moment, or this season, I should say. it looks like a sinking ship, right? Like for basketball, it's like, are they going to make a tournament? Are they going to make the tournament? Are they going to make the NCAA tournament? Right now, I'm going to tell you, I still don't think they get there. That could change. Saturday, which we'll talk about. We're going to break down Arkansas and South Carolina here in a minute. Saturday could do a lot for Arkansas basketball. But for football, that's the appearance that it has. For players, for coaches, for assistants, for coordinators, for position coaches, whatever. It has the appearance of, do I really want to go somewhere where I could be out of a job within 12 months or, within after the season, or maybe even in the middle of the season where they're looking for another coach. Do I really want to come be a part of that? So it's a very that's why I said at the beginning, it's a very complicated question. It's a very wide open question because really, of course, they're serious. They're operating a business, a very profitable business that, yeah, tickets still sell, but you still got to get people to come to the games. I'm going to tell you, ticket sales are a big part of it. They're not everything. You've got to get butts in seats also for the appearance, right? I mean, every athletic director, they don't want to look out and see an empty stadium, especially with when you got people like, board of trustees involved. They don't like to see that. All of a sudden that reflects poorly upon the athletic director. But also merchandise sales, when you go and buy your hot dog and your overly priced soda, like this stuff all matters, right? So yeah, I think they're taking it serious. Of course they are. I know it's we could have fun with it and be like, no, they're not taking it serious. They are attempting to be serious. I see though where fans are like, they're not serious about winning, but I think they are. But they have to work within reason. They're not going to go out and get. They're not going to go out and get an elite offensive coordinator. Now, maybe some of you think Petrino is that. Maybe he is that. I don't know. All right. Hudson Clark again. So Arkansas is going to have 9. It looks like at the moment 9 super seniors come back for the year. Since we're on football, we'll go ahead and stick with it for just a second. They're looking at 9 so far, 9 returning super seniors. We know this number. I think it still drops. I think they lose somebody. I don't know. I'm looking at Jashad Stewart, maybe. I'm not Jashad Stewart. I'm sorry, Keon Stewart, the defensive back who was a transfer. Kyvie Rose, maybe. I'm a little surprised Eric Gregory. So far, it looks like he's coming back. Tykees Crawford. These are guys. Hudson Clark, maybe. I mean, I think he's all hog, really. But Andrew Armstrong, Tyrone Broden, Isaac Teslaw, Hudson Clark, Tykees Crawford, Eric Gregory, Kyvie Rose, Jashad Stewart, and Keon Stewart are all the 9 returning super seniors for 2024 at the moment. I feel like someone's going to leave. You never know. I don't know where the hell they're at on scholarships. I've seen where people have claimed they're over a spot. And then I've also seen where folks are saying, like, well, no, they're actually 3 under. So I don't know what the number is. I have been told they're not done, so that would tell me that they've got some spots open. At the moment, Arkansas has, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 total transfers that are committed. They've already got a bunch of them on campus. I'm excited for spring camp. And again, if you haven't watched, I don't know if he uploaded that video yet or not, but I was on Mark Rogers. Go watch it. We go into detail, obviously, just about the shape of the football program, just kind of where they're headed. We talked a little bit about the very thing I'm about to talk about here in a second, which is Quincy McAdoo. We went in on that a little bit, but I think the portal class is very top heavy. But Jaquindon Jackson, the Utah running back who I already mentioned, 6'2", 230 pounds, grades out really well on PFF. PFF's under some scrutiny, and I've told you guys before, who was it that called PFF out? Was it Watt? It was Watt, wasn't it, that called out PFF? He's got a point. And I saw someone brought that up in Discord about PFF. I've told you guys before, I take their grades with a grain of salt. I don't know who the hell is watching, who's watching, name a really small school. Who's watching all these games? Think about all these games, and you look at the transfer portal, and you see how they grade these cats that are coming from these schools you've never heard of, who's watching those games and grading them? But I do think there is something to those grades. I just think you ought to take them with a grain of salt. I like that they go deeper into the analytics. They go deeper into the actual snap count. They go into what positions where they're lining up at. And as far as I can tell, based on Arkansas and just some other people I've talked with, they're pretty accurate in terms of where they're lining up and what they're doing and snap count and things like that. Even some of their production, not the grades, but the actual production is also not 100%, but it's fairly accurate. All right. Yeah. Year 5 and sadly appears like a rebuild at almost every position. Yeah, you're not wrong, Mark. You're not wrong. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. And when I mean share, there should be a little arrow button somewhere below this screen that you're looking at. Just tap it, paste it into a group chat. Just be like, hey, go support this guy. He's taking on all these, people with big financial backings and people that come from radio, people who work for these major websites. He's taking them all on, baby. He's independent. Go support the small guy. Smelly it. Are you referring to yourself in the third person? Are you really doing that? Smelly it watches every Albany football game. Ty, I am PFF. Okay, if you say so. Tercer, what's up, man? Yo, Ty, not far from you over here working a job by Sunset. Yeah, you're down the road from me. I may have to head to Odd Soul for lunch. There you go, bro. Quality pies. IPAs on tap. Hating on Hudson Clark. Hudson does catch a lot of heat. I think it was Andrew Hutchinson who made a comment on Twitter talking about his grades and how he's lined up at virtually every position in the secondary and how fans would be excited to land somebody like that out of the portal, especially when you consider some of his production. He's not wrong. Could they upgrade? I don't know. I like he's a willing tackler. He's not afraid to lay the lumber, okay? He'll come at you. This last season, his tackle grade took a dump, though. I mean, I don't think he played great last year. So can you upgrade? I think you probably could. But I'm excited, man. If he comes back, that's a super senior. Sam Pittman has had pretty good success with super seniors just in terms of that individual success and sometimes team success. Basketball is over, so smell it. Let's get to Quincy McAdoo. We talked a little football to open this bad boy up. Let's stick with it. Quincy McAdoo, if you guys haven't kept up with this, I know a lot of you have, but McAdoo was reported by multiple in-state media folks. I don't know who actually broke it first, but it was all over the place. I mean, you know how it goes. One person will report it, and then it's like everyone jumps on ship. I thought it was Best of Arkansas Sports that reported it first. Maybe Andrew Hutchinson. Someone, I think it was one of those guys that broke that news first. I could be wrong. If I am, I apologize. But it was reported by multiple in-state media members that Arkansas sophomore defensive back Quincy McAdoo would go on a medical hardship and would never play football at Arkansas again. Now, I know they wrote an article. BOAS did. If you haven't read it, go read it. They've got you covered. Quincy McAdoo, we know in 2022, this is a guy, it's still almost shocking how big of an impact a guy who was recruited to Arkansas to play wide receiver, participated all through camp as a wide receiver. As far as I know, that I can recall, they move him and Samuel Bakke. Remember that? They moved both those guys to defensive back, which made no sense for Bakke. You understood it for McAdoo. I'd always heard he's a pretty good defensive back. He could play the spot. Don't know how accurate it is, but I'd also heard he had some offers to play DB at some other schools. Don't know how accurate that is. That's just something I had heard along the way. 6'2", but 190 pounds. Comes in and is amazing. has an instant impact on the field. That doesn't happen. Now, especially as a true freshman, had he played the position all through camp, had he been, if that's what he was recruited to do, if that was his primary position coming out of high school, and then they move him, or they keep him there all through camp, all through the season, and then he just happens to emerge and have a big game or have a couple big games, that's one thing. That's not how this went down. Quincy McAdoo, again, to my knowledge, all he did was play wide receiver. He practiced at wide receiver. They move him to defensive back. I don't remember. I think it was Liberty, I think, was his first time out to play. I could be wrong. Please correct me. 2022 feels like a lifetime ago, but has a huge impact. He ends his Arkansas career, as far as we know, with 4 pass breakups, 30 tackles, 2 interceptions. Just an incredible ending to the 2022 season out of Clarendon, Arkansas. Played a major role, and then he was involved in a vehicle accident, I think on I-49, right? And after that, we didn't know really what was going on. We didn't really know, okay, what's up? Why are we not hearing that he's back with the team? Time kind of goes on. And then this is the first time we've really heard much. Now, in 2024, mind you, this happened before the 23 season. And so here we are, right? And so anyways, everyone and their mom posts about McAdoo not being, he'll never play at Arkansas again. McAdoo then goes to Twitter on January 17th at 1:41 p.m. I'm sorry, we're supposed to call it X. Counting me out before the doctors say is crazy. So I don't know if that was him, and Mark and I talked about this. I don't know if that was him to the coaching staff saying that. I don't know if that was him to fans, to the media who reported that. Clearly, McAdoo doesn't believe that it's over. There's still a shot here for him to play, but his Arkansas career is over. Quincy McAdoo's Arkansas career is over. Very unfortunate. I think it's. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we're all wrong, and Sam Pittman comes out and says no. I don't know where they heard that, but that's wrong. But man, there's certainly a lot of. I don't know. I mean, there's some folks who I trust, who I don't know what their batting average is in terms of reporting stuff like this, but it seems like it's pretty high, who are saying, yeah, he's not going to dress out. At least at Arkansas, he'll never dress out here again. I want that to be false. I want that to be wrong. Please take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Listen, Sam is ultimately, the doctor has the final say, but Sam's going to be the mouthpiece, right, when he comes out and talks when we get ready for spring camp. I'm sure that's going to be one of the first questions he's asked. Hey, what's up with Quincy? Is he for sure? Is he done? I know he's talked about it a little bit before, but I think now it's going to be, is it concrete or not, right? Coming from Sam. Unfortunate. Quincy McAdoo, again, was a huge piece. You look back, 2022, they were bad in the secondary. There's no joke about it, man. There's no bullshitting on that. They were horrible in the secondary, but he came in and provided a huge amount of aid to that secondary. So, we wish him the best no matter what. I want to see him in a Razorback jersey again. We'll just have to wait and see. But it looks to me like his career is over at Arkansas. Again, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. I appreciate you. I know it's early on Friday. I don't typically do that. There's so many how to do these shows. There was a time when I was the only show in town, right, on YouTube, just strictly on YouTube. I know there's other places, but now it's like you go live. There's so many other Razorback focused shows that are live at the same time you are. You see radio now. They're putting their stuff on they have been now for at least a couple of years. They're putting their stuff on YouTube as they're live. So someone had asked me if that's what was like why I'm kind of why the times change when I go live. It has some impact on it. It does because, yeah, I want you guys here. It's one of the reasons why I don't go live on Facebook, on Twitch. What's the other one? I feel, there's several. There's so many different platforms. I want everyone in one place. May change that in the near future. I may go live in a couple of places in the future. But I've always liked the idea of just being one place. You know where to find me. I'm right here. It's real simple. I watched a podcast with Fernando Carmona. It was cool to see the portal process. It was encouraging to see how good of a recruiter Matios. I've been corrected on that name too, by the way. Yeah, I saw where he was on something. I saw his it looked like he'd done an interview or something. Yeah. Is our luck possibly our best defensive back we've had in decades gets hurt in a car wreck? Well, I wouldn't go that far to say he's our best defensive back in decades. I don't know that I would go that far. He was a really big piece. I mean, I thought in 2023, without him, I always thought the turnaround in the secondary would still be there. I just thought without him it would be a lot harder. Ty may not be the only show anymore, but still the best out there. I appreciate you, Mike. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah, they're popping up every day. It really started when the Petrino, or when we all thought Pittman was going to get fired, and all of a sudden there's a new show every day. You know, I mean, it's just part of it. I always knew that would happen. No one else. Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of claims. I guess I think I was the first post game live on YouTube. And I think I was one of the first to do just like live shows throughout the week only on YouTube. I could be wrong. I don't know. I said possibly. He had potential. Yeah, I think he would have been great. I do. I think he would have been great. He was you can't deny what he did when he came back, or when he moved over to the secondary and had the kind of year that he had in 2022. I remember us talking about that then. What if they had done this sooner? That was the talk when this was all going on. I don't know if you guys remember, but I was ranting and raving like, why did it take them? And this goes back to the whole evaluating thing, right? Like one of the things that people have criticized Sam Pittman or some of his staff, why did it take you so long to make that move? Why wasn't he there? And I think it's a little more complicated, right? Like there's things going on behind the scenes. He may have only wanted to play wide receiver, and they had to convince him to move to the secondary. I mean, there's so much more. It's a very big picture we see very little of. And you learn that more and more, when you actually get to go to the practices. You actually kind of understand a little bit more, boy, maybe I was wrong a couple years ago when I said this. You learn as you go. And I think Quincy McAdoo's situation, and I'm not saying that was the case, that he only wanted to play wide receiver, because after all, he did go back to he moved to the secondary, played defensive back, and as far as I knew, he was fine with staying there. I think he would have been great. Greatest we've had in decades? I don't know, considering, I mean, that's not really a hard claim to make, right? Because Arkansas hasn't exactly produced a whole bunch of great DBs over the years, or corners. It's been a while since they were spitting out defensive backs. So, yeah, I mean, he could have been the best they've had in at least a decade. The reason I asked the first question is because I live in Austin, and UT fans here look at Arkansas as a poverty program. Really hope we beat that Longhorn ass again next year, says Roz Henry. Oh, it's clicking on OG Ty first. Appreciate you, Pigpen. You guys also, Pigpen, I think, came here from SLR, Sports Live Reaction. You guys go check out SLR. He's my boy. I like SLR a lot. What I typically do is I watch 80% of the game on live TV because I'm taking notes. I can hear the announcers typically. I'm, kind of scripting out my post game a little bit. And then like the final few minutes, I'll go over to SLR's channel and I'll watch him. SLR does a great job. I think that's where Pigpen came here from. But I appreciate you, Pigpen. I appreciate you a lot. Random question, but I don't really know when to ask. Where does DVH rank among all-time Arkansas athletic coaches? Oh, Tony. That is off topic, but I think he belongs. I don't know where I would rank him. Some folks who are more than baseball casuals, right? You got your basketball casuals, you got your football casuals, and you have your above baseball casuals, and they'll tell you he's probably top 2, top 3. It's hard to debate when you consider for any, imagine saying, and it's hard to equate any sports, especially postseason college sports, because it's all apples and oranges and bananas, right? But any coach where the expectation is to make the Final Four or the playoffs, where that's the expectation, or to get near that level for the last 7-8 years, I don't know how you don't have Dave Van Horn at least in the top 4 or top 5 in coaches, period, on campus. Now, I've had some baseball diehard fans tell me, no, he's the second best behind Nolan, or he's just slightly behind Frank Broyles and Nolan. You know, that's up to the person you're asking, right? All right, I think we covered the Quincy McAdoo stuff quite a bit. Again, hope I'm wrong. I hope the people who reported that are wrong. I would love to see him in a Razorback jersey again, but again, it just doesn't look likely, unfortunately. Arkansas and South Carolina. Here is a game that you can really, even though it's at home, it's a game that can help with bringing back the casuals. Bring back the casuals. This is a game that can do that. South Carolina has a good record. They're 14-3 overall. 2-2. Again, that's surprising. I didn't think they'd be 2-2 to start off conference play. I thought they'd be, over. I thought they would have maybe one win by now in conference play. So the fact that they're 500 in conference play. But the more surprising thing about SC is the fact that they're 14-3. That's what's surprising. They've handled some decent opponents. I would argue they don't really have that one high quality win. They beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State was kind of on a tear there. My internet's being really slow today. I'm trying to pull up all my separate notes and what have you. But they beat Mississippi State at home 68-62. Now Mississippi State, we all know, playing pretty good ball. They're 12-5 right now. They are struggling in conference play. I thought Ole Miss, South Carolina, LSU, I thought they would all hit a wall by now, and Ole Miss kind of has, right? They entered conference play undefeated. They're now 15-2. They're 2-2 in conference play. I said Ole Miss would hit a wall, and I think they have in a way. I mean, Tennessee took care of business. Ole Miss is they just lost on the road to LSU by 9. I caught a little bit of that game. Ole Miss is better than I thought they were. I'll fully admit that. I don't know if Addison's in live chat or not, but I'll give you credit, Addison. Ole Miss is better than I thought, but they're performing, other than taking care of business against Florida the way they did, 103-85 at home, mind you, at home. Right now they haven't won a single. They're 0-2 on the road in conference play. They did beat UCF on the road, which is, not that UCF is, they're 11-5, not like they're lighting the world on fire or anything, but that is at least an okay win on the road for Ole Miss. But South Carolina is that other team that has surprised me along with Ole Miss. Now, they got absolutely squashed at Alabama, but they went on the road and they beat Georgia, and then they lost at home they went on the road and they beat Missouri in a tight game, mind you, and Missouri's not good this year. they're still, them and Vanderbilt still looking for their first conference win. They're both 0-4. And Missouri almost beat South Carolina, but SC won 71-69. And then at home against Georgia, they lost 74-69. What does South Carolina do well? They're points allowed. They're the best defense in the SEC. They're only giving up just south of 65 points a game. They do plenty of things good on defense. Now, rebounding, they're tied with Arkansas. So you're not about to face some elite rebounding team. Arkansas has already played 2 or 3 really good. Actually, if you consider Purdue, even though it was an exhibition, they've played some pretty good rebounding clubs, and they've been squashed. Arkansas has been killed on the boards. They're not that. South Carolina is a very vanilla rebounding team, averaging just 36.8. Along Arkansas is the exact same. They're not an elite shot blocking team. We know Arkansas is an elite shot blocking team. Offensively, they have struggles, but defensively, they are very good. Again, they rank, I think it's first in the SEC in points allowed, 32nd in the country. We know Arkansas is still the worst defense, and so we got polar opposites on defense here. So, we saw Arkansas go off offensively at home. Can they do that against a really good scoring defense in South Carolina? Now, I think, again, South Carolina, their numbers are bloated. So we have to kind of start looking at things by SEC standards, right? Because, we're getting there. We're getting to that point. I start looking at SEC numbers like now, really like 6 or 7 games in, because you're coming up on the halfway point, and we're just about there. So if you look at these guys defensively, or just looking at their team statistics, points per game, they are almost dead last. They're almost dead last at 72 points a game. Arkansas still hovering almost smack dab in the middle, slightly above at 78 points a game. It's good enough for 6th. When you consider how this team can go, it's not uncommon for them to go on these 2.5, 3-minute long runs where they don't score any points, where they're getting outscored 8-0, 10-2, 10-4, 12-4, 14-2. It's not unheard of, right? And because their offense they hit a wall in these games, and you start to see a little bit more good teams that can play good zone defense, and all of a sudden Arkansas just shuts down on offense. How often do you see guys around the perimeter just standing there? Isn't that frustrating for any of you guys? Like, you'll sit there and you'll watch, and someone will dribble. It used to be like it was Devo or Minifield for a little while, and then you'd have 2 guys out on the perimeter just standing there. No movement, no attempt to maybe on-ball screen, off-ball screens, no attempt at trying to find a backdoor cutter. It's either dribble drive or pass, stand, pass, pick up the dribble, pass. All of a sudden you're inside 8 seconds on the shot clock. Oh, now we panic and we just throw a shot up. They're very frustrating, and yet throughout all of that, there's still a top 6 scoring offense. Imagine in SEC play. Imagine if these guys found themselves on offense. Again, it just speaks to what we talked about preseason. They have it in them to be a great offensive team. They have it in them. How stagnant they are, and how often we see them go. Look at these slow starts, which are very. That's Musselman. Like, that was a common complaint last year. God, why did it take them 2 minutes off the game clock to even get their first bucket? Why did they start off 0 for 6, 0 for 5, 0 for 4, 0 for 3? Why is this so common? That was the complaint last year, and it's still there this year. Very rarely, it seems like more times than not, they're getting outscored in the first 5 minutes of a game. They start off very slow, and then they start to pick it up, and it's all about finding the right chemistry on the floor, as we always love to repeat. Arkansas has it in them to be a great, and I would argue 6th is a good offense. That's what's crazy. 6th in the SEC. I would argue that's a pretty good offense. It's not great. It's pretty good. Just imagine where these cats could be. They're shooting the three ball. I think this is probably the best percentage-wise, his best three-point shooting team he's ever had. And when you consider last year, you had a couple guys who could knock down the three ball, and Devo found an ability to stretch the floor and became he was a 3-level scorer last year, just not as consistent leading into March as we would have preferred. But with all the issues they had last year, it's like a lot of that lingered over, and now they've got the problem because they don't have raw NBA talent on the floor like they did last year. Isn't that crazy to think about? Like, even without Nick in Brazil, they still had a flurry of guys. I mean, Nick Smith, Black, Walsh, they've all, Walsh got his first minutes as a Celtic. God, that almost brought a tear to my eye. I always love seeing former Razorbacks. Not that there are a lot of them dressed out in a Celtic jersey. It was awesome to see that. 4 boards in 3 minutes in his first game. I mean, look at all that NBA talent. I don't think you have that this year. They have talent. They have older, more senior guys that are supposed to be able to score at high levels. And we're not seeing that put together. We're not seeing the usual suspects every game. There are no usual suspects outside of Mark. And even Mark has at times this year kind of vanished. Mostly, though, it's been Mark. For a while, it was Battle. For a little bit, we thought it might be Minifield. But we're not seeing the usual suspects every night. And, again, I think it just speaks wildly to the massive lack of chemistry these guys have. It's almost like someone has to just put the game on their shoulders and find a way to win it. Maybe you'll have 2 guys do it in a game. If you're lucky, you'll have 3 guys do it in a game. And assuming you don't have 15 turnovers, you have a shot at winning those games. Transition defense is still, I think, an issue for them, but they're getting better. I think we are seeing them try to clog. It's my biggest complaint about Arkansas is, the dribble drive right to the rim. And it's just been so easy. I think it still is. They're probably one of the worst at that in this league, but I think they're getting better. I mean, and you talk about too, like, there's more than just one guy that's getting blocks in games, right? Like, you're seeing 2 or 3 other guys get quality shot blocks and altering shots at the rim, and yet it's still just too easy to finish at the rim on Arkansas. There's just so many inadequacies and zero consistency with these guys. All right, I'm off my gripe train. But South Carolina, Meechie Johnson is going to be – Meechie Johnson has to be someone that Arkansas – you might have to double-team this guy. I think you may have to double-team him because if he goes off, now that's going to open things up for a couple of their other guards. By the way, they're going to be without Miles Stute tonight, who's good for 4 rebounds, 10 points, 1 assist per game. He's only turning the ball over 1.5 times. They, as a team, are turning the ball over 10.6 times a game, according to ESPN, but they're going to be without Miles Stute, so that's big. That's a big piece that's going to be missing. Once again, Arkansas is facing an opponent at home where that opponent's missing a key factor. But Meechie is someone they're going to have to keep an eye on. 4 eyes. I think they may need to consider double-teaming him. He can knock down the 3. He's shooting 36% outside. He's got a mid-range shot. He can finish at the rim. Meechie Johnson has to be heavily considered, and I'm sure they will. Musselman's very well aware of Meechie. BJ Mack is another guy that can burn you. This feels like the kind of game where BJ Mack can have 18, 20, 22 points. He's averaging about 5 boards. I think he'll probably end up with double digits, because Arkansas has just struggled a little bit on the boards. They're getting out-rebounded most of the time in conference play. So, yeah, they can go deep. We know Musselman wants to shrink down that rotation. He talked about this, the fact that they're going, 9, 10 deep. That's not what he wants to do. We all know he wants to tighten that rotation down to about 8. My guess is they'll probably average in SEC play in terms of quality minutes and more than just a couple of minutes on the floor, guys that are going to get 8 to 9 to 10 minutes a game. That number, I think, in conference play will be around 9. Which I think will be about the most he's had since he's been here. And it speaks to them just not finding the right set of the right rotation, the right chemistry, and getting those 7, 8 guys in position to do good things. They've just struggled at getting all these things to work at once. I still don't have them in the NCAA tournament. I do, however, think Arkansas wins this game. And it does. It has something to do with Miles Stute not being in this game. I think he's a big piece for them. Not a gigantic piece, but a pretty big piece. I do think BJ Mack, I'm going to pick that he probably goes off if they do double team Michi. They might try to put a little bit of length on him. So maybe they'll bring someone out, out of who would typically be around the paint. Maybe they'll bring them up on Michi. It's not like, Michi, who's a guard, it's not like we're talking about a 6'7". He's 6'1", 6'2", but they may try to they might try to get someone physical on him. They might pull someone out from the paint to kind of deal with him a little bit, or at least to assist with him. Maybe that'll open things up for South Carolina offensively. And I could see BJ Mack. He's either going to have a high point production game, or he's going to have a whole bunch of rebounds. I could be wrong. They've also got Colin Murray Boyles. Sorry, is the guy that he's a freshman, 6'7", 230-pound freshman, 6 points, 3 boards. Keep an eye on him as well. But yeah, South Carolina. They're good. I don't think they're great, but they're good. They're in really good shape. When you look at their scheduling, now it's tough because they're coming off this loss against Georgia. They got to go to Fayetteville. They come home and they got to play Kentucky. That'll be a good game on the 23rd. But then they get Missouri. They're back on the road against Tennessee, Georgia. But then and there's not really that many easy games in this conference, by the way. But they get Vanderbilt and LSU at home, Florida at home, and Tennessee at home. So they're going to have an opportunity to end up with a decent conference record and maybe a shot at getting in the NCAA tournament. But for Arkansas, this is a game that can build a lot of confidence for folks. It can bring a lot of people back into the fold. People who were out on Arkansas basketball, maybe this is a game because South Carolina is a quality opponent. All right? Make no mistake about it. They're a quality opponent. Even if they're missing a guy. They're still going to be a handful. The one thing I don't have pulled up is their net ranking. Let me find that really quick. What is their net ranking? Well, I know I have it here somewhere. What is your net ranking? I'll find it. I know I will. Ole Miss is at 63rd. That's a little bit lower than I thought. South Carolina's at 71. That's what their net ranking is at the moment. They are 2-2 on the road, 3-0 on neutral floors. They're 9-1 at home. They're 1-2 versus quad one wins. I mean, I know. Are some of these games going to be considered quad one in March? You know what I mean? But again, I've had conversations with folks who are like, no, I think that this is actually these numbers are still they're relevant. They certainly are. They're 3-0 against quad 2. However, they're 4-1 against quad 3 and 6-0 versus quad 4. So, I mean, I think they're a pretty decent opponent. They're not a high net ranking team. Obviously, again, they're at 71. So they actually fell back a couple spots. Arkansas currently they're hanging around at 107. They're hanging around at 107. So this wouldn't do a whole lot. A win would maybe bump you up, but they're all must-wins, right? Everyone talks about must-win games. They're all must-wins. I mean, they are. They're all must-wins. There is no game here where you can afford to lose. You want to go on the road and get one against Ole Miss, who I thought their net would probably be a little bit higher. And then you come home in the big one. Listen, if you can win against South Carolina, if you get the dub against South Carolina, you're coming off that win against A&M, and you go on the road and you beat Ole Miss, that's going to be a tall order. Ole Miss is a quality team. I don't care what Net says about them right now. And then you come home to take on Kentucky, who I assume will be it's at least close to still being in the top 10. They're coming off that win against Mississippi State at home. They've got Georgia at South Carolina, and then they have the 27th matchup, on January 27th, the matchup against Arkansas. Could be it's going to be a big game no matter what the record indicates or no matter what these two teams are ranked. Well, Kentucky, whether they're still in the top 10 or not, and whatever Arkansas's net ranking is, it's a big game. It's a big opportunity. But imagine the buy-in. Imagine Fayetteville. That's on a Saturday, by the way, at 5 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. Place is going to be rocking. It's already going to be rocking because it's Kentucky, but think about how much louder that place is going to be if you could find a way to get a win against South Carolina tomorrow at noon, SEC Network, and if you can find a way to get a win at Mississippi, at Ole Miss. It's going to be crazy. And all of a sudden, you're getting talked about being brought back in to the tournament table, to that conversation. You're brought back to that table, but you've got to beat. And it started against A&M when you got that dub, even though you blew a 20-point lead. But it started there. You got South Carolina, and then you're on the road against Ole Miss. You find a way to win these games leading up to Kentucky and then beat Kentucky inside Bud Walton. I mean, it's a whole different ball game. So, yeah, they're all must-wins. Why are you guys tagging me left and right? Did I disconnect? Okay, no, you guys. All right, never mind. Had a whole bunch of tags. I thought, oh, boy, I disconnected, didn't I? All right, I think that's going to do it, though. I appreciate you guys. Tennessee and Kentucky will probably beat us by 40. Defense is extremely embarrassing. It's really bad. Arkansas's, I think they're dead last in defense in the SEC. Tell you right about guys standing around with Blocker being the exception to the rule. So frustrating, lack of hustle. Yeah, Blocker's pretty good at moving around. Devo at times will move around. I don't know. Are they being coached to just stand there? Surely not. Surely not. Our guys are just going to have to step up from now on. No excuses, and we'll still probably won't make the tournament. I don't see us winning the conference tournament by any means. So much can happen, and there's still so much basketball left to play. But again, at the moment, even with that A&M, if anything, the A&M game did probably it reassured me that they're still not playing at that level, at the tournament March Madness level. They're nowhere near there, and not that we expected them to. Hell, not very many teams are. But I really thought, for Arkansas, for their sake, they needed to get that rush on. They needed to start looking like that March team. It's never going to happen in just one game. It's a string of games. Even in some games you lose. But that game, when you blew that lead and played so shitty in the second half, it just reassured me this is just not a team. I just don't think they have it in them. I hope I'm wrong. Again, A&M started the winning process, and in those terms, if you can beat South Carolina, if you can go on the road and beat Ole Miss, and you could beat Kentucky, all of a sudden that conversation changes. So these games are very important. These string of games are important because you feel like if you lose the next three, there's damn sure no way you're in, no matter what you do in the SEC tournament. So, yeah, you feel like they're positioning themselves to have to go on a decent run in the SEC tournament. And even then, it's probably an outsider shot, right? Yeah. Okay, that's going to do it. I realize, again, I want to thank you guys. This was an early show. I'm glad you guys got here. I'm probably going to have to start doing 10 a.m. shows, 10 to 11 a.m. shows, something like that. I'm trying to find my own time slot, just where I can find my own spot. And sometimes, you guys know, it's going to be random lives, just how it goes. Okay, Patreon supporters, remember, if you miss a giveaway, don't freak out. Don't freak out if you miss a giveaway. You don't have to be there. You just make sure you check your Patreon DMs, your email, whatever email account you have connected to Patreon. You don't have to be there, but yeah, just make sure you're checking your DMs if you win anything. We're going to do another giveaway soon. just keep an eye on it, right? Just make sure you're refreshing. Make sure you have the Patreon app. Refresh it. And, yeah. So, and I'll try to let you guys know when those spins are happening too. I won't just, I'll probably tell Discord, hey, I'm doing a spin. So, but you don't have to be there. Don't freak out. Don't panic. If you win, I'll be in your DMs or I'll send you an email. I'll do it all. Let you guys know that you won, assuming you win, right? Tony Brown says if we win versus SC and at Ole Miss, then versus Kentucky, we would probably be right outside the tournament on the outside of the bubble. Yeah, but it starts. My point was it brings you to the table, of being considered a tournament caliber team. It brings you to that. It brings you to the conversation. That's really all you need, right? Well, and wins, which are not always easy to come by. All right, I appreciate you guys. I know, again, these shows are sometimes hard to make, but I appreciate those of you who are able to make it. I'll see you on the postgame tomorrow. I'm so glad it's an early game. Thank God. All right, here comes the name scroll for the Patreon supporters. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy your Friday. Stay warm.